Good day everyone and welcome to another lesson in 21st century from the Philippines and the world. Let us begin our lesson by having first the emotional check-in. What do you feel at this very moment? I want you to pick any emoji or emoticon that will represent your emotions. Share it on the chat box or in the comment box, together with the reason why you chose that emoji. Thank you so much class for sharing. Before we dive into another lesson in 21st century literature, let's have first an activity. In this activity, it is entitled Reading Out Loud. So you need to read the following statements that I'm going to be flashing on screen. And that's it. Let us read the first one 3 times. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Very good. Next, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? There you have it. Second to the last, which switch the Swiss wrist watches? Which switch the Swiss wrist watches? Which switch the Swiss wrist watches? And lastly, which wristwatches are Swiss wristwatches? I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. Which wristwatches are Swiss wristwatches? I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. Which wristwatches are Swiss wristwatches? I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. There you have it, our initial activity, that is reading out loud. I hope you will answer as well the set of questions that I have prepared. First, did you enjoy the activity? Why? Second, is tongue twister an example of literary device? Why or why not? And third, tell us something about literary devices. Once again, you may key in your answer using our comment box below. Today's topic in 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world is all about literary devices. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to define and describe the elements, techniques, and different literary devices. Explain why and how literary devices are used in text, and write a literary review about their favorite book. Now class, these are the contents that we will be dealing with. First one, literary devices, and the other one is literary elements and techniques. I assume class that somehow you already have an idea about what a literary device is. If it happens that you know anything about the concept of literary device, then feel free to comment it below. Literary device is a tool used by writers to hint at larger themes, ideas, and meaning in a story or piece of writing. And there are many styles of literary devices, wherein each serves a different purpose. Some operate at the sentence level, while others serve the piece of writing as a whole. And if you're going to ask me, what are the common literary devices that we have or the author ought to use, we have metaphor, simile, we'd also have personification, hyperbole, and such, wherein it is considered or they are considered as the building blocks of literature. That makes literature so amazing, enchanting, colorful, lively, and effective. Now, question class. What are the most common literary devices used in literature, aside from what I have mentioned earlier? Before I reveal the answer, let us tackle first what is figurative language. When we say figurative language, it refers to the meaning, beyond the literal of the meaning of the certain word, also known as figures of speech. And when we say figures of speech, it's about a rhetorical devices that achieve special effect by using words in a distinctive way. Just like what they have said, it adds color, it adds life, it adds amazing creativity as the author engage himself or herself in creating a wonderful literary piece. And that's the significance of figures of speech or figurative language. Let us begin first with the figures of speech under simile. When we say simile, it is an expression comparing one thing to another using the words like or as. For example, he ran like a cat, lightly and quietly. So the person here is compared to the cat, wherein it runs like lightly and quietly. The second example is, her blue mood passed as quickly as an afternoon rain shower. There is also a comparison between two things, using the word as quickly as. There you have it. Once again, we called it simile. Comparison of one thing to another using the words like or as. The second one is what we call metaphor. It's direct comparison. It is something to do with direct comparison of two unlike things, of course, without using the words like or as, since we're talking about direct comparison. So you're going to eliminate. You don't need to indicate like or as you compare two unlike things. Like for example, he was a statue waiting to hear the news. Direct. The person here is directly compared to a statue as he wait to hear the said news. The second example is, she was a mother hen trying to take care of everyone around her. So the person here is directly compared to a hen, mother hen, for she's trying to take care of perhaps her child or children. That's it. We called it metaphor. Direct comparison of two unlike things without using words like or as. The third common figures of speech that we have here is what we call hyperbole. It's about exaggerating statements or exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. Like for example, I'm so hungry that I could eat a horse. Very exaggerated, right? Wherein the person who is talking wants really to imply that he's really hungry. Another example is, I love you to the moon and back. Very exaggerated statement, wherein the meaning of that statement has something to do with his or her love towards certain person, incomparable love. That's it. We called it hyperbole, an exaggerated statement or claim that do not meant to be taken literally. Next, we have personification. It's about the attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human, or the representation of an abstract quality in human form. Like for example, my car drank the gasoline in one gulp. It seems that the car is like a human, that he can gulp or that he can drink something. Like in this sentence, the gasoline. The second example is, Rita heard the last piece of pie calling her name. Imagine the pie can talk, which is really the attribution of personal nature or human characteristics to something that is non-human or non-living thing. So here in personification, non-living things can act like the living things or living creatures or creatures. That's it. We called it personification. Another figures of speech that we have here is onomatopoeia. It is a word that imitates the sound it represents. Common onomatopoeias include animal noises such as oink, meow, roar, and chirp. And at the same time, the sound that you heard earlier, the bark of a dog. So let me just give you an example or a set of examples. The first one is the pig oink as they flop in the mud. So the onomatopoeia there is the word oink. It represents or it imitates the sound of the pig. It produces the sound of the pig. The other example is the mooing of the cows was hard to miss. The onomatopoeia in there is the word mooing that represents the sound of the cow. So that's what we call onomatopoeia. It has something to do with the word that produces or imitates the sound of something or someone. Another figurative language that we have here is the word imagery, wherein it is defined as a visually descriptive or figurative language, especially in a literary work. It is also the product of image makers. Like for example, the smell reminded him of rotting tomatoes. Another one, the fence was uneven, like baby teeth growing awkwardly in. And this figurative language, it allows readers to picture out the image of the author that wants to imply. Now class, let us have another figurative language, but this time we will talk about more on foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is used to give hints that an author drops to prepare the reader for what is to come or what will happen next. And it helps the reader to anticipate the outcome of the situation given. Like for example, a pipe is going to burst, but before it does, the author writes a scene where the family notices a small dark spot on the ceiling but ignores it. So that's the concept of foreshadowing. It gives hints, several hints or a series of hints in order to prepare the reader about what will happen next. Okay, so let's have another figurative language under alliteration. This is the repetition of the same consonant sound in words occurring near one another. Like for example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Another one is Sally sells seashells by the seashore. And lastly, the big bad bear scared all the baby bunnies by the bushes. So as you can see, there is a repetition of same consonant sound in the following tongue twisters. So we can say that. We can simply conclude that tongue twisters are examples of alliteration. Now let's have allusion. When we say allusion, it is a causal reference to a famous historical or literary figure or event. It seems like we are talking about to a certain reference. Now, reference about a certain thing, situation, concept, and such. For example, if it doesn't stop raining, I'm going to build an ark. So we can simply connect this sentence to Noah's Ark as part of reference in the Bible. Next, my sister has so many pets. I'm going to call myself Old MacDonald. So this one is a reference under a nursery song, Old MacDonald. So that's what we called allusion. A causal reference to a famous historical or literary figure or event. Did the author use in order for them to provide additional color? Okay, class. So the next figurative language that we have here is assonance. Assonance creates internal rhyming within phrases or sentences by repeating vowel sounds. This time we are talking about vowel sounds that are the same. This one we can say that it is similar to alliteration because it involves repetition of sounds, but the only difference is we are focusing on its vowel sounds. That's the repeated, let's say, initial sounds. More on vowel sounds instead of consonant. Like for example, on a proud round cloud in white high night. So as you can see there, the repetition of vowel sounds refers to letter O and letter I. Another one, it bits as it sweeps, as it cleans. That's it. We called it assonance, repetition of vowel sounds. Another one is oxymoron, a figure of speech in which apparently contradictory terms appear in conjunction. Contrasting. That's it. That's the concept of oxymoron. Like for example, there is a real love-hate relationship developing between the two of them. So the two contrasting words are love and hate. Love, hate. So that's what we call oxymoron. Two contrasting words. Another example is suddenly the room filled with a deafening silence. The two contrasting words, the two contrasting words are deafening, deaf, or silence. No? Deafening and silence. So that's it. We called it oxymoron, a figure of speech in which apparently producing or presenting two contradictory terminologies or words, such as love and hate and deafening and silence. Next, we have symbolism as part of figurative language. Symbolism is an object or action that means something more than its literal meaning. I know that you are familiar already with this one whenever I ask you about the symbolic meaning of a certain word. Like for example, pink, the symbolic meaning of pink is about the fight against breast cancer. Another example, the Statue of Liberty symbolizes freedom. Roses stands for romance. Chrysanthemums represent perfection. And lilies stand for beauty and temptation. Aside from that, of course, there are lots of symbolic meanings or symbolic words that arises when the author wants to integrate it in his or her literary piece. That's it. Symbolism. Next is idiom or idioms, otherwise known as idiomatic expression or expressions. Idiom is an expression with a meaning different from the literal meaning of the words. Like for example, I got cold feet before my speech. That means that he or she was scared because of his or her boss. Another idiomatic expression is give me the green light. That means that his or her boss said yes. It implies as well that you can go on because green light means proceed or go. Another example, draw the curtains. That means ending, closing. Put the lights out means turn off the lights or off the lights. Another example of idiomatic expression is, the common example is break a leg. That means good luck. Another example is bring home the bacon. That means that you need to win. You need to be the champion. That's it. Bring home the bacon. Do your best and be the champion. The next one is the word cliché. It is an expression that has lost already its power and originality because it is overused already. Like for example, the phrases or the sentences like they all lived happily ever after, read between the lines, fall head over heels, waking up on the wrong side of the bed, and such. So we considered it as cliché already because the expression has lost its power from overuse. That's it, class. But before we go on to the next topic or content of our lesson, let us answer the following questions here. First, how do literary devices affect the reader? Explain. Second, how do literary devices help develop themes? Prove your answer. Once again, you may key in your answer using our comment box below. Without further ado, let's proceed right away to other literary elements and techniques. Let us begin with the literary element character. It is a person or sometimes even an animal who takes part in the action of a short story or other literary work. And we have here different types of characters. We have protagonist, serves as the main character. Antagonist serves as the source of their conflict, of the conflict of the story. Dynamic or changing character. Static or unchanging character. So that's it. I know that you're familiar already with the difference among the different types of characters. The bida, kontrabida, the character na nagbago yung kanyang let's say attitude as the story go along, might as well be static, or the person or character na all throughout the story talagang mabait siya or masungit siya and whatever. So that's it. We call it character or types of characters. A person or sometimes even an animal who takes the role in the action or let's say in the story. The next literary element is all about setting, wherein it refers to the time periods, geographic locations, cultural context, immediate surroundings, weather, times of day, times of the year employed in the story. So it has something to do with places, the time when it was happened, and many more. Another concept here is plot. It refers to a series of events and character actions that relate to the central conflict. In Filipino subject, the term that was coined about this one is more on the banghay ng storya, or the plot of the story, wherein it is consists of exposition, the introduction part, rising action, papataas na action, climax, kasukdulan, falling action, kakalasan or pababang action, and resolution, that means ending or katapusan. That's it. We called it plot, a series of events, series of scenes, scenarios na nakita during or within the said story. In literature, a conflict is a literary device characterized by a struggle, difficulty, challenge between two opposing forces. What are those? We have the four basic types of conflict. Conflict with the self, conflict with others, conflict with the environment, and conflict with the supernatural. Conflict provides crucial tension in any story and is used to drive the narrative forward. Without this literary device, the author won't come up with a good plot. In Filipino subject, it is otherwise known as tao laban sa tao, tao laban sa sarili, laban sa lipunan, at laban sa kalikasan. Theme is also part of literary elements. It's about the central idea or belief in a short story. And there are 6 common themes in literature. We have good versus evil, love, redemption, courage and perseverance, coming of age, revenge, and such. That's it. Theme. And as a reader, we should be able to understand, we should be able to grasp the central idea of the given literary piece. Lastly, other elements refer to narrative point of view. It refers to the point of view from which the story is narrated. And actually, there are 4 types of it. First, we have first-person point of view, wherein you're going to use I, pronoun I, in telling or narrating the story. The characters in the story relating his or her experiences directly, since we're talking about first-person viewpoint. And of course, the second one is the second-person point of view, wherein the story is told to you. This POV or viewpoint is not common in fiction, but it's still good to know. It is common in non-fiction literary pieces, the second-person viewpoint. The other types are third-person point of view limited and third-person point of view omniscient. In third-person point of view limited, the story is about he or she. So we're going to use pronoun third person pronoun viewpoint. This is the most common viewpoint in commercial fiction, wherein the narrator is outside of the story and relating or narrating the experience of a character. The other one is third person viewpoint or point of view omniscient. The story is still about he or she, just going to use third person pronouns, but this time the narrator has full access, like he knows everything. He has the full access to the thoughts and experiences of all the characters in the story. That's it. That's the difference between the two, limited and omniscient. They are both third person viewpoint. They are both using third person pronouns like he, she, and such. But the only difference is that third person viewpoint omniscient has the access, knows everything about the character, their traits, the happenings, the scenarios, and so on. While the other one is limited only. That sums up our lesson. If ever you have questions or clarification, feel free to raise your concern using our comment box below. I was about to say chat box, but this is just pala the video lesson or the pre-recorded lesson. So feel free to raise your concern using our comment box below. For your group house activity, each of the groups will be given 5 minutes and space on Padlet to create a free verse poem employing literary devices. Link will be sent via Google Classroom classwork, and please do cooperate with your group mates. Make sure that you will be able to contribute something in your group, which will be graded according to the rubrics that I'm going to send in our Google Classroom. Please be guided as well that for today's lesson, there will be no quiz and no performance task. The only thing that you need to accomplish is the group house activity. But in terms of individual tasks, individual performance tasks, I'm not gonna give you, but assume that next week or next lesson, I will assign something. So for now, let us just be, have a good rest and then have some recharge so that next week you can be able to participate more in 21st century literature. That's it. Hope that this news helps you to have some rest. To formally end our discussion, kindly send me your ticket way home. Send me a green if you fully understand the lesson, yellow if you still have questions about the lesson, and red if you did not understand the lesson yet. That's it. Thank you so much for considering this video. I hope you learned something today. See you next time. Same link and same day. I hope that you will participate more next time around. Goodbye.